If you're listening to this, you've probably heard the stories about the Appalachian Mountains. They say these peaks are some of the oldest on Earth. So old, they've forgotten what it's like to be part of the natural world. But they haven't forgotten us. I grew up in a small mining town in West Virginia, a place where the trees grow so thick the sun never truly hits the forest floor. We were taught two things from birth. Never stay out past dusk, and if you hear your name called from the woods, no, you didn't. I was 22 when I broke both of those rules. It was the summer of 1986. I was working a seasonal shift for the Forest Service, clearing trails near a restricted section of the Monongahela National Forest. This wasn't just any restricted area. It was a tier, one blackout zone, on the old government maps I found in the ranger station. My supervisor, a man who had worked those woods for 40 years, never looked me in the eye when he gave me the coordinates. He just told me to stay on the trail and keep my radio on Channel 7. The first week was quiet, almost too quiet. No birds, no insects, just the heavy, humid silence of the mountain. But on the 8th day, the air changed. It became static, heavy with the scent of ozone and wet copper. Around 4 p.m., my radio hissed to life. It wasn't my supervisor, it was my own voice. It sounded exactly like me, the same cadence, the same slight West Virginia drawl, but the words were wrong. It was repeating my own lunch order from 3 hours ago, over and over, like a tape loop. I thought it was a prank, some bored local on a pirate frequency. But then I heard it in the trees, not on the radio, but in the air itself. My voice, calling for help from the bottom of a nearby ravine. I followed it. I know, everyone in the files says the same thing. You know it's a trap, but the sound of a human voice in distress is a biological trigger you can't just ignore. As I pushed through the laurel thickets, the interest hook of the mystery began to tighten. The voice wasn't just coming from the ravine. It was moving with me. I reached a clearing and stopped. There, standing in the center of a circle of dead hemlocks, was me, or something trying very hard to look like me. It was taller, its limbs a fraction too long, its skin a pale, translucent gray that looked like wet paper. It was wearing my Forest Service uniform, but the patches were mirrored. Its face was a smooth, featuresless slab of flesh, except for a mouth that didn't open when it spoke. It used a series of vibrating membranes on its chest to mimic my voice. It didn't attack, it just watched. And as it watched, I felt my own memories beginning to blur, like it was downloading my life through the air. I realized then that these mountains aren't just old, they're collectors. They use these witness files to build a map of our world, one person at a time. I saw a black, unmarked government van parked on an old logging road 100 yards away. They weren't there to rescue me. They were taking notes. They were observing the harvest. I ran. I didn't look back until I hit the paved road 5 miles later. My supervisor was gone when I got back to the station. The files on Channel 7 had been shredded. They gave me a settlement, a non-disclosure agreement, and a new life in the suburbs. But the mimic is still out there. Every now and then, I'll get a phone call, and when I answer, I hear my own voice on the other end, telling me what I had for breakfast. If you live near the mountains, if you hear a friend calling from a place they couldn't possibly be, don't answer. The debt hasn't been paid, and the Fringe is getting closer every day. File 03 is closed, but the mimic is still learning. Subscribe to Fringe-Files-Animated to keep the archive open. We are the only ones left watching the border, and the border is moving.